like to call to order Town Commission regular meeting of May 9th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Mayor Tom Peck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Here.
Commissioner Fender,
Here.
Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, we have a few proclamations and presentations this evening. First one is National Police Week proclamation. Would Town Clerk please read the proclamation into the record?
Whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15 falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the town of Sewalls Point play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the town of Sewalls Point. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, and hazards and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of the town of Sewalls Point unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore I, John Tompeck, Mayor of the town of Sewalls Point, call upon all citizens of the town of Sewalls Point and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 14th through May 20th, 2023 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an inviolable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of the town of Sewalls Point to observe Monday, May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or who have become disabled in the performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes.
Thank you very much. Chief, would you like to receive this proclamation?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to be bragging about one of our officers in the department in just a moment here. So we'll roll it all into one.
Okay, the next item is a life-saving award, Police Officer Sebastian Gonzalez. Chief, please come up and present the award.
Some of you may recognize Officer Gonzalez. This is not the first time he's been here before the Town Commission for a life-saving award. And I say this in all seriousness, that if you were to have a need to have your life saved or some sort of a serious cardiac or medical incident, Sewalls Point is the place to do it, because our officers do a remarkable job of life-saving here, which is obviously one of the more important tasks that we have, but they're extremely dedicated, they're conscientious. You know, they put forth the effort in their training to make sure that they do know what they're doing, that they use the equipment that's available to them, that the town has provided. And fortunately, we've been very successful. And in this particular case, on Monday, April 24th, Officer Sebastian Gonzalez was dispatched to a medical assist for a female who is unresponsive, possibly having a seizure. When he arrived on scene, he spoke with a witness on scene who stated that the victim had had a grand mal seizure earlier in the day and was complaining of chest pain. The victim was reported to be breathing and in a bedroom. He observed a woman on a bed, not breathing. She was pale, cold to the touch, her lips were blue in color, and when he checked for a pulse, she had none. The patient was moved to the floor, and an AED was deployed, and following its instructions, he and a witness began performing CPR. They continued CPR until the arrival of fire rescue, who then continued advanced life support. When the patient was transported to Cleveland Clinic, Martin North, she had regained her pulse and respirations. Later that morning, as our officers often do, following up to see how people are doing and checking on her status, he was informed she was stabilized and received additional testing. This officer's exemplary response in recognition of a life-threatening condition caused him to provide the care necessary to restore life. It is for this reason that Officer Sebastian Gonzalez is recognized for his actions and is receiving this formal commendation at the regular meeting of the Sewalls Point Town Commission on May 9th, 2023.
First of all, I'm humbled and grateful, and just glad that I was used of God to be able to be a blessing to the lady that I saved. I'm humble and grateful for the recognition. Thank you to the commission, to the chief, and just want to give praise and glory to God for using me in this instance.
Thank you.
You know, we talk about a lot of things up here, but this is the important stuff. Okay, the next item is Historic Preservation Month proclamation. Would the town clerk please read the proclamation?
Declaring Historic Preservation Month in Sewalls Point, Florida, in honor of Alice Lockhart. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character. Whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas historic preservation plays an important role in our lives, and we should celebrate the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas the Martin County Historic Preservation Board has planned events throughout Martin County during the month of May to increase awareness and the need for public participation in historic preservation in order to save our local treasures. Whereas this year's Historic Preservation Month honors Alice Lockhart, a local historian and author who is remembered for her lifelong historic preservation work. Now therefore, the Town Commission of the Town of Sewalls Point recognizes the month of May as Historic Preservation Month in Sewalls Point in honor of the local historian, and asks the residents of Sewalls Point to recognize the importance of remembering our past.
Okay, and I'd like to present this proclamation to DeWitt Price.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah. All right, as always, every year, I do appreciate the recognition that the town of Sewalls Point does for Historic Preservation Month. It's something that's near and dear to me. I've always done a lot of historic preservation developments in Miami Beach, and it's about preserving their history. Alice Lockhart is one of those. If you don't know her, was very instrumental in preserving a lot of what we have in Sewalls Point and creating a lot of memorabilia that shows just how Martin County has changed over the years. We lost her last year, so this year this year is a culmination of really celebrating her. Last week we opened up a new Lockhart Way that's over by the old, oh my gosh, yes, by the old building, that I'd like for you guys, definitely, if you ever want to go by, get a quick bite, take a walk along Hollis Lockhart Way. The city of Stewart really did a good job in really trying to celebrate who she was and what she's done for the city of Stewart, Martin County as a whole. The rest of this month, we have about 12 different events, which we'll be having our historic proclamation that will be given to the Preservationists of the Year in 2 weeks. And that just goes to show just all the different people who we celebrate here. And I appreciate it once again for you guys recognizing that and giving us this honor.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Where can you find the events? Like, is it online on your website?
Yes, so
Okay.
if you go to the Martin County website, there's actually a Historic Preservation Month, a Historic Preservation website for Historic Preservation Board. I do have a bunch of calendars that I am going to be bringing by the city. I forgot to
Okay.
bring them today, but I will bring them by tomorrow and drop them off. But there'll be a stack that will allow you
Okay.
guys to
I
see.
appreciate that. Miss Luckhart was my 7th grade teacher, geography teacher. And
Yes,
so I
she's
think this is
very-
a really cool honor, so thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys, once again.
Okay, I have no public comment cards. So we'll go to the, any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Moved as written.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye, here.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tom.
Yes. That brings us to the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Campo,
Aye.
Commissioner Fender,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield,
Yes.
Mayor Tom Peck,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kurzman.
Yes.
Okay, we have no ordinances, first or second reading, no resolutions, no old business, no new business, but we do have a discussion item on travel and meal expenditure policy. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Daniels, and also Mariah Pierce.
Right. One of the things that we noticed, or I noticed, being here and Mariah being new to the town as well, is that we lacked a policy covering our expenditures for training and travel. That when we don't have our own policy, we have to revert to the state policy that they have, and it's woefully inadequate for South Florida expenses, or Treasure Coast expenses even. We do judiciously review our training needs and expenses, and a lot of times we just don't have enough staff to go to a conference or gather training. We try to do a lot of it online, but this summer we do have some opportunities for some of our staff to expand their educational knowledge, and hopefully, again, as part of our recruitment and retention, we want to retain our talent here, and by investing in their needs helps us to do that. So we realized the situation, so Mariah volunteered, as her HR hat was on at the time, and came through and drafted this policy. So I'll turn the floor over to Mariah and any questions that you have. Didn't mean to steal your thunder. So.
Oh, no, that's fine. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The main thing regarding the policy is that what we're recommending is we use the GSA guidelines for meal reimbursements and, travel accommodations. So that's the main thing that we are out, putting in this policy. And just an example is the town manager spoke. Right now, the Florida state statute for breakfast allows a $6 meal allowance. If you go to Orlando, the meal allowance is $16 versus the $6. So that's where, it's just one of those things, if we use the GSA site, we can be a little bit, more adequate in reimbursement of expenses if needed. Typically, if there's a conference, there wouldn't, we wouldn't be reimbursing meals because those meals would be included in a conference training scenario, but this is just kind of a start to where we would like to, be with kind of our policies, getting our policies up to date.
Okay. Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes. Since you're the one who put it together, where did you find it? Did you use other municipals' policies as a guide? Like, how did you?
Yeah, so basically with Florida GFOA, they have
Okay.
like a string of, you can, it's like a listserv. So you can put a question out there and basically folks just, kind of throw out what they have.
Okay.
So this was from another finance director that I did get this.
Okay.
So-
And then I have a question about, on page 20, it's actually page 2 of 6 of the policy. It says authorized travelers are required to use the most advantageous method of travel available to the town. I feel like that's a little bit vague. I don't know, advantageous, there's many ways to be, I don't know. Let me just, obviously it probably means financially is what I'm
Financially,
gathering.
exactly, yes.
But
So-
I thought that was odd wording.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought it was odd, but, and then on page 21, under lodging, it says elected officials, the town manager, employees shall be allowed hotel accommodations for travel less than a 50-mile radius based upon meeting schedules and attendance needs.
I'll answer that one. Sometimes at conferences, you have a night class or, night training. I know a lot of the managers ones do. So I just wanted to make sure that, if we have our employees, going down to West Palm for a training conference and they're in a class till 9 o'clock and they're tired because they've been
Yeah.
there since 8, we should be getting them a hotel room. But that's something that I'll be reviewing when I authorize that all of our travel and training costs have to go through my desk. So-
Okay, so obviously something reasonable, not like a class
Right.
ending at 4.
No, just looking at, sometimes there's nighttime criteria, and again, it's all part of taking care of our employees, and they'll take care of us.
Okay. I had Mayor, do you have something else you want to say, or do you want me to ask
No,
that? Okay.
no.
On page 22, which is page 4 of 6, under meals and incidentals, it says expenses incurred for meals when travel has not included overnight stay shall be reimbursed under section E of the policy. Isn't section E what that is in?
Yes. Yep,
It's just a
fine.
little
I can
confusing.
clean that up, yes.
Okay. And then a little bit of the same thing under program seminar conference fees. It says, subject to the provisions identified for expenditures in the town's expenditure and purchasing policies. Does that mean Part B section? I just thought those two parts were a little confusing.
So one of the things that we'd also like to basically be bringing is more policies to.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of going in line with, hopefully maybe after the budget session,
Okay.
because I know we're going to be busy with budget here soon, so.
So I'm getting too detailed? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's fine.
No, I have one more, and then I'm totally done.
Okay.
Page 5 of 6, it says, actual and reasonable travel and entertainment expenses incurred by commission members or employees on the town on behalf of a business client or authorized guest. I feel like that should be worded differently. Do we have
Yeah,
business clients?
I had the same comment you did, because the way this is worded, it almost looks to me like there might be some sunshine law implications.
Yeah, I don't know, it's a
here
little
that
bit,
are-
yeah,
Okay.
that section's a little bit interesting.
Maybe you can explain that sentence a little bit?
So one of the things that basically I think we were trying to accomplish with that is if we have a vendor, or an example
Are
is,
you talking about a lobbying
yes,
opportunity that it might have or something?
yes.
Okay.
So basically being able to address that at that time. So,
I think we need to spell it out better than.
okay. We can do
And
that.
obviously, you consider whether you have a contract with somebody or whatever, I mean, if you have a contract, are you reimbursing them for expenses?
Or say I want to meet with the county administrator or something, and, it's a business meeting, but we have lunch or something, I just, I want to make sure that there's authority there.
Okay.
Or another member of staff, say Mariah's at a conference and there's a finance director from somewhere that, it's helpful to have that mentor out there too, and just having that flexibility.
Okay.
Again, you can, if I make the wrong decision, you can get rid of me, but I'm going to be making it in the best interest of the town.
Why would you want to waive the disclosure of the names? I'm struggling with,
Maybe I missed that part.
We,
Sorry.
I'm struggling.
and we
with
could
it.
eliminate that. So,
I want to be transparent,
okay,
so.
we'll remove that.
Stormy Daniels is not.
I just felt like the term business client
It'll
really
come out of-
sounds like a profit business. It doesn't sound like
Exactly,
government
yeah.
stuff.
And I did think of that
Yeah.
when doing that, so just looking for that right term, so.
And then our plans, based on your feedback, is to craft the resolution and have it at the next meeting for your approval.
I had a couple of, are you?
I'm done, thank you.
Okay. I
Done,
had a
thank you.
couple of questions too, and by the way, I thought this was well-written and right way to go. I like the idea of using the, the GSA rates, because then there's no discussion or argument about it. One of the things I was a little worried about was the, approval of travel or meal expenditures for commissioners, and getting that approved by the town manager. And the reason is there is an inherent conflict of interest there. And what other municipalities have done, what they've done is they've had the travel on the consent agenda just so that the town commissioner, city commission could vote on it. And that makes it a lot more transparent, and I think that's something we ought to at least consider. Now, of course, there may be cases where there's a last-minute trip that needs to be taken before a meeting is going to be held, and I don't think there's any problem there with the town manager doing it, but at the same time, I think if if we know a meeting is coming up, there isn't any reason that we can't list the expenditure or the trip request in the consent agenda just to approve it. That way, everybody knows about it. And I'm not sure on page 23 why the paragraph about workers' compensation kind of belongs in here, but I guess we could probably leave it. And I had the same comment on the employee break room on item J on page 24. I'm not exactly sure why you need to have that in this procedure.
Okay.
And of course, I did talk to town manager earlier today, and I don't think anybody else has seen this form, but they do have, or they're at least working on a form. And of course, the form's important because it does, constitute the audit trail should anybody want to review the expenses that were made. So it's critical that the form be, an attachment to this procedure or something like that, so that everybody knows what form is being used for expenditures. Other than that, I thought it looked real good.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mayfield?
I was just going to say, I think your idea about the expenses for the commissioners seems like a good idea.
Okay, we have any other input? If not, let's go ahead and, I think I'd like to, I don't know about the rest of the commission, I'd like to see the finalized version of this before we get the resolution, or with the resolution, whatever.
Okay.
That'll work. I mean, there's not a whole lot of changes here, so maybe you can
Yep, we can
get
do
it
that.
out to us earlier, and then we can still get it on the next meeting if that's what you'd like
Yes.
to do.
See about getting it out maybe Monday and take a look at it, make sure,
Yeah, that
a
would be,
couple things going on this week, so.
that would be fine.
And we're going to add the language for the commission? Do you want me to put language in there, or do you
I
just
think we
want?
probably, we'll talk about it.
Okay, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us down to commission and staff closing comments. Mr. Daniels.
Yes, thank you very much. The first item on my list is the Heritage Lot update. We had probably 5 or 6 inquiries, and I know Jack had talked to a couple people, but we didn't successfully get any bids in for the lot. So looking ahead, At each one of your places, there's a copy of an RFQ that if you all are in agreement, I will go ahead and post that, and we'll get professional real estate services and prices, and then, come back to a meeting with that information, and if you all approve the winning firm or best ranked firm, there's a ranking system on the back side of this document. Then we'll move ahead. Or if you all would like to do something else, I'm ready to get your feedback.
My question is this, would it be easier to get this piece of property disposed of with a one-shot deal rather than a one-year period with 3 possible one-year extensions? Are we looking for a 4-year commitment, or are we looking really for one piece of real estate?
Well, we're actually going to be looking at another piece of real estate in the future, once we get Phase 3 done, if that's the commission's wishes. So that's why I had the leeway in there, but we can treat it as, one property now and then worry about that 2 years down the road.
I mean, I'd really like to do this once, and then as these sales or potential sales come up, we have somebody on board.
Okay.
Almost like a continuing contract for engineers or something like that.
Okay.
Can I make this a continuing service agreement?
Well, basically, if this is approved the way it is, it'd be a contract with 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew, so you'd have that 4-year total limit.
Okay.
We could draft up that contract easily. I guess the question I have is, does the commission want the renewals to come back to you each year, or you don't delegate that authority to the manager to just each year just renew it without coming back to you?
Like I said, I think you put the renewal as a consent item on the
That's
agenda.
what I was just gonna say.
That's a simple way to do it without a long
That way,
presentation.
again, we're keeping the transparency and
Okay. That's fine. What else you got?
okay. I talked to Jordana from the FP&L gas company. I forget the name of the actual gas company. But she sent out a questionnaire or survey to every resident in Sewalls Point and got 1 card back. So she's going to do it again. I'm going to make sure that we put out a constant contact. Now I know what she's doing, and advise everybody if they can please, whatever they want, but we want to hear what they want and send the cards back in. Because
She mailed this? She mailed
I
it?
remember seeing this.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it either. That's what I was going to ask. What did it look like? Did I just think it was, was it a letter or is it a
It
card?
was a postcard. We've got a couple of them here, and she told us that it went out to everybody, but
We never-
obviously,
There isn't a
Can we,
commissioner up here
yeah,
that
can
got
we
it.
see one? I didn't.
Anybody? Nope.
okay. So I will
We're 0 for
have that
6.
chat with her. Okay. And then Phase 3 update, basically, we are still in the negotiating phase of Phase 3, and we're working on a couple Plan B and C as well. One, looking at the sewer line and the water line and doing that first, which we would have to do first anyhow, so it'd keep us moving. We are within the budget on it, but there's also an opportunity to piggyback off of some agreements that the county has. And Joe, do you have any update on that, or is that pretty much where we're at?
Yeah, just real quick, we basically are talking to, we have spoken to the county, but we wanted to speak with them not only with what the bids are and making sure they already know that. I already talked with them about the bids. We wanted a formal opinion on that, and then we wanted to show them the piggyback continuing service option. And I have spoken to the continuing service provider they have. So you know, his name is Jamie Underground, the same folks that did North Sewalls Point sewers. They would be giving us a price on water and sewer in South Sewalls Point. And again, mainly in the Phase 3 area, but also the line from here down to Phase 3. So essentially, they have told me verbally that they are interested, which is the first thing you have to establish. Are they interested? First of all, can we piggyback a contract? Glenn's group has told us that. We will be confirming whether the funds, we ran into an issue with the funds being, even though it's a state grant, sometimes they get money out of the federal government. So we're making sure we confirm that they are state funds. They seem to be a little more flexible than using federal funds, of course. So anyways, it's moving along. Obviously, this option will also save us time. So that's the main objective, is to save some time, and hopefully when we do get ready to put the drainage in and the roadway, that group can then move along quicker because they won't have to mess with the water and sewer lines. So that's our plan right now. And
Joe, are they all directionally bored so you don't have to rip up the street for them?
yeah, most everything will be directionally drilled this way. Yeah, there's very minor patching needed with this option, but they will have a number in their contract for that, to do those patches. And it'll be a matter of, do we need, who do we want to do the patches later? We don't actually have to use them, because they've also told me that, the contract that they have is for utility work. And although they have asphalt work in there, it's a little higher rate than if you were to do the utility work. So I'm just going to leave our options open to make sure we get the best price. So again, we do have Sunshine that does asphalt work, and again, we also have, if we decide to use the low bidder, if we decide to use them, and that decision will be made, I would assume, by you after we get going on the water and sewer. But we'll obviously bring that up before you also, so you have a chance to see all these numbers. We have been working with the grant agencies, because some of the contracts have to still be signed, and obviously we want to make sure that Mariah's been working with them to try to make sure that they give you a contract. We want to make sure that we get their money as fast as possible and get reimbursed for this. And so we're working on that. So the grant agencies, we have these grants out there, and we have approval for them, and we have to get a contract signed for all of them, and all that's in the process. And that's both from HMGP and resiliency. And so I think everything's moving along as best it could be. Certainly wish it was quicker, but we hope to make up some time with actually going with a utility contractor.
I wanted to ask a kind of a stupid question, I think, but, when we went to the legislative delegation a few months ago and made our pitch for the $1 million for Phase 2, it looks like that's been approved and will be part of the budget, assuming Governor DeSantis signs it. I have a feeling that if we had known we were going to be this short on Phase 3, we probably would have asked for the money for Phase 3 instead of Phase 2. And I'm wondering if there's any way that we can make an adjustment to use some of that money on Phase 3. I mean, we're not going to, the way things go here, and we've seen it, a couple of times, is if we break Phase 3 into sub-phases, it's going to take a lot longer, and we'll need to get more money, which means that Phase 2 is going to continue to slip back a little bit. So it would make a lot more sense to me if we were able to use some of that Phase 2 money for Phase 3, and if next year we go back and we could ask for additional Phase 2 money. Like I said, I don't know if we can do that, but I thought I'd at least ask.
Well, first of all, it's not a stupid question, but I will tell you that working with state agencies tends to be a little easier than working with the federal group, because they have a formal process and they take forever to make those approvals. But I will tell you that typically they kind of like to keep their pots of money in place, as you know, you've done this before. But I would first get the money in hand, and then we can then talk to them about that. But I don't want to discount it, Another option is to move Phase 2 forward a little quicker, so we roll into Phase 2 and 3. Now, I know there's cash flow issues with that, and quite honestly, that's the reason why we are looking at state revolving fund for some of the cash flow issues that we know we're going to run into with the project. So, I think we've got a lot of options. First thing, let's get the money in our hands, so that's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Campo?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful with switching things around when we're making solicitations for certain funds. They should be genuine, and we should, honor, because there's a lot of muscle that goes into those lobbying efforts, and if they're not honored in the spirit that they were pitched, that could create some ill will.
Okay.
And just while we're on that subject too, this was a full court press that we put on the legislature, and I think I wanted to publicly thank Commissioner Campo for his efforts too, and reaching out to the contacts that he had and getting this done. So I always stress teamwork, but I don't think we could have gotten this done if it wasn't for Commissioner Campo's work behind the scenes.
We appreciate that. Could you just tell him it was a typo, 2 is supposed to be a 3, or?
Well, we meant Phase 2, 3. Anyhow, the last thing I had down here is we did have Arbor Day, and we did replant a tree that was blown down from the storm the weekend of Arbor Day. So that we did take a picture so we could send off to the Tree City folks, and we also have a donation from our town clerk of some plantings of oak trees, and the biggest of which is outside that door right there, our emergency door, is going to go where our septic tank used to be once we get the septic to sewer connection at Town Hall. So it'd be a nice tree that will eventually shade the parking lot, and we get to nurture it and grow it from a seedling. Well,
And it's
more
going
than
to
a
over the
seedling.
septic tank? That's real
I think
pretty
it'll
drain field.
have good fertilizer.
Poetic.
Yes.
After the old septic tank, so we're removing the septic tank and planting a tree.
Yeah, there we go.
What could be better than that?
And we do have a couple other little oak trees too that we're going to nurture through the process, and then we are working on a tree. We are working on a tree day for Sewalls Point.
I like that idea.
And then if I can throw the hat over to our town attorney, if you're ready for that, Mayor.
Sure.
So I have two
Take
items.
away, Glenn.
Okay, thank you.
You know where your bulletproof vest?
Yep, there it is. 2 items. The first, I'm not sure if you're aware that Mr. Sharfie's case is still proceeding. We haven't had an attorney-client session in a while. We thought it might be a good idea. There's been some recent developments, so I'm not sure if you all are available before your next meeting on May 23rd at 5. If you are, then I'll read this into the record. And so pursuant to Section 286.0118 Florida statutes, I'm requesting advice from the Commission regarding pending litigation, specifically regarding settlement negotiations and strategy related to litigation expense in the case of Benjamin K. Sharfie, trustee of the Benjamin Sharfie 2002 Trust versus Town of Sewalls Point, case number 2019-1041CA in the Circuit Court of the 19th Judicial Circuit in Martin County, and request an attorney-client session to be scheduled for May 23rd, 2023 at 5 p.m. This session will be attended by the members of the Town Commission, name all of you, Mayor Tom Peck, Vice Mayor Kurzman, Commissioner Campo, Commissioner Fender, Commissioner Mayfield, Town Manager Mr. Daniels, myself, and our outside attorney Sam Zeskin or Matt Mendel. I'm not sure if either or both might be attending. Certified court reporter will be present to ensure the session is fully transcribed, and the transcript will be made public upon the conclusion of the above cited ongoing litigation. The estimated length, I'm guessing 30 to 45 minutes, that session. So, thank you. Now, I think the reason it Mr. Campos at Bulletproof Vest is to provide you with a little overview of Form 6 in the legislation. And I'm handing out, and I saw I'm in the parking lot, so I'm going to be giving you all homework tonight. 3, 4,
You're not kidding.
I think there are 6 of Bob then, too. I'm obviously not going to take your time and read through all that, but we could get down the road.
Workers' comp claim.
Is this the condensed version, Glenn, you're giving us?
Well, I want to give you the full version. The condensed version is the first page and a half. That's the summary, or in my language, cheat sheet. You need one more? Here.
Oh, you got one?
I got, yeah. You have one?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's attached is the actual legislation, the Form 6, the instructions that the state has about how to fill out Form 6. Again, but the first page, and page and a half really, I tried to lay out in hopefully English what this is all about, and I'll just read through that. And then, after you read this, either give me a call during the next couple of weeks, or I can report on it again next meeting. Obviously, this is brand new. The headline is that this new legislation provides that local elected officials, mayor and commissioners of municipalities such as Sewalls Point, have to file this Form 6, full disclosure of financial interest with the Florida Commission on Ethics. Right now, you're only filing a much more limited disclosure, which is called Form 1. And it goes into effect on January 1st of 2024. So it doesn't impact you now, but if you're still in office on January 1st, 2024, then you have to file your disclosure by July 1st of that year. Just like you file your Form 1s every July 1st, you would have to file it in 2024. You can file them, they must be filed electronically. They have, you see in my subparagraph 5 on the first page, household goods and personal effects, if valued over $1,000, you can aggregate and say, I've got jewelry and art objects and clothing, and just do that. But 6A on the bottom of that page, I think, is the one that's going to cause the most concern. Anything over $1,000, even if you hold it jointly, then you have to report it 100%. So, for example, the most common is a spouse. So you're married, you and your spouse own an asset worth $100,000, $500,000, whatever it is, you're going to have to report that. The same thing with liabilities on the next page. You'd have to report that. Every source of income over $1,000 has to be reported. You could submit your federal income tax return instead, if you'd like, and that would cover this because it's pretty comprehensive. So that's the headlines. Take the time and read through this. I'm sure there's going to be, lots of articles written on it. I'll provide more details next time. This just came out. I guess I don't believe the governor has signed this one yet.
No.
Not yet. So there's always a chance that he vetoes this, and this is just a headline that you can just throw out with tomorrow's paper. But if he doesn't, then I wanted to get this in front of you as soon as possible so you can start thinking about it, because it will impact every elected official in the state, in every city in the state. And I'm last count, I think there's 486 cities or some number like that, and counties as well. So thousands of good local elected officials who, essentially volunteering their time for their communities are now going to have a lot of their financial information out there in the public eye if the governor doesn't veto this. That's kind of the summary.
Okay. I'm sorry, did you have a question specifically? Okay, go ahead. Is your question on 6 too?
It's going to be, I have two questions, but this is going to be part of it. Yes.
All right, go ahead. Vice Mayor Kurzman?
Yeah. What happens if we don't do it? Let's say it comes, July 2025, doesn't get submitted,
You're not going to enjoy it. Let me tell you that.
so they're looking for resignations if you're not going to do it.
You get into the language of the legislation, and it's on page 24 of 29 is the legislation, and it talks about fines of up to $20,000. So it's not just paying a nickel. And that's on actually page 25. They give you the civil penalty not to exceed $20,000. But there's more than that. You could be impeached or removed from office. You could be suspended from office. You could have a public censure and reprimand. You could forfeit no more than 1/3 of your salary per month for 12 months, your salary year, not your salary in your private business.
That's a
Which I
no-brainer.
know, 1/3 of nothing is still nothing. And a civil penalty not to exceed $20,000, restitution of any benefits that you received because of the violation. So it's significant, it's serious. And my memory is, even on Form 1, if you're late, they have like an automatic scale that they charge you. I forget if it's $25 a day or $100 a day, but I've heard from other folks that is, if it's $100 a day, in 10 days, you're $1,000. So even your Form 1s, please file those on time. And I know there's some grace period. Again, I haven't reread all of that for Form 1s, but I just know filing these forms are important to do, whether it's the Form 1, which is a lot less intrusive than the Form 6.
Commissioner Fender.
I was just wondering if anybody's done any.
Can you speak closer to your mic?
I was just wondering if anybody's done any calculation on the over-under of whether the governor will actually sign this.
He will.
You think that it's a done deal?
Who would not sign this? This would be like governor vetoes ethics legislation. I don't see that happening.
Affects him too, right? Well, maybe he's already affected.
He is. He has to do a Form 6 now.
Yeah.
I just think it's really an overreach, but, for,
It's a total overreach.
and
I mean, if you equate what we do versus what everybody else that has to file it does, it's just not similar. Isn't it right now the state legislators, the governor, county? Is that correct? Yeah. And you look at our salary and our budget, it should be relative, is my opinion.
Yeah, we can't accept gifts, we can't break sunshine, they could have parties and talk about politics amongst themselves, and they're making decisions on us, and most of their income is actually coming from the government. We don't have an income from the government.
That's correct.
It's just, no, we don't.
He said we.
It's just, you're comparing apples to oranges, and I think it's a disgrace.
what I also think is this highlights, what you folks at the home rule discussion you had, and then, trying to make everybody the same. Tallahassee tries to treat everybody the same, and it just doesn't fit us, but, oh well, life goes on. Commissioner Campo,
That's my report, sir.
thank you very much.
So,
Sorry to bring,
yeah,
sunshine light.
Commissioner Mayfield is on the League of Cities, and I'm sure that this was conversation, and they, how and what did the Florida League of Cities do to try to carve out municipalities that have a certain size or non-salaried? Because I know that there's some commissioners from other local communities that, feel like they were not represented.
I did not personally go up to Tallahassee. They have their advocacy meetings, and they go up there, and I know there are people up there advocating for that specific thing, that if you don't make money, if you're not salaried, to maybe limit that. And then I just did my part by writing emails saying this is one size fits all, and we're totally different, so please, this is restrictive.
I have somebody waving to me from the audience, Tom?
Having gone up there and still involved with the league, they did try to get it to where only the larger cities would have to file Form 6. It just wasn't going anywhere. And then they did exempt managers, and Form 1s are for managers still, but for commissioners, council members, and I don't know, maybe Glenn, what about LPA members and CRA members?
I don't think they're going to be covered by this. I want to look at it some more.
Because you have a lot of that. Anybody who has anything to do with money, they want to
What
have
about
a
Children's
file.
Service Council?
Pardon?
What about Children's Service Council?
Yeah, I don't think they went that far. I just started looking at this because it just got passed, but I focused on municipalities. But I don't think it impacted the special districts like Children's Service. I don't think it affected the planning and zoning boards, the LPAs.
Because we file Form 1s.
Yeah, that might be next year, for all we know. I mean, again, I remember when home rule first was a big thing and it got passed, it was constitutional amendment, and everybody was talking about, now municipalities have all this authority, and the legislature has just in the last 10 years more than chipped away at that. And this is saying, we don't really want folks to serve. Not my place to comment on legislation, but this is one that I just keep scratching my head on what's the purpose of it.
So
Sorry.
Commissioner, they did try, but it was going nowhere. The league did try, but it was going nowhere. The Florida, even counties, because they're very close. If
The what piece?
the Florida Association of Counties, they're really run by the League of Cities. And they also wrote something in non-support of this, if that's it. But this is it.
Thanks, Tom. Commissioner Fender.
Who drove this legislation?
Drove the bus.
Say it again?
Who drove the bus? I don't know. Who was the sponsor?
I'm just curious, what was the motivating factors?
I just heard amongst people saying that they just wanted everybody to do what they had to do. That I'm just saying what other people said to me, that they're like, if we have to do it, why don't you have to do it? That was what I heard. I don't know if that's true.
Because you get paid and we don't get paid. I think it's an incredible invasion of privacy.
It is an invasion of
And I
privacy.
think it's going to limit the quality, present company excluded, of course, of people in the future that are going to serve. And it's a shame to the town.
At the home rule meeting, there was somebody from a municipality, and I won't get any more specifics, but that person said that if this happened, then they would have people that would resign, and you'd have a really hard time finding people to,
I believe that
Yeah.
to be true.
And Glenn, I guess that brings up a question I have for you. Say our board members, our commissioners resign, or one or two of them decide to resign. Obviously, our charter involves filling a vacancy, but what if there's nobody interested to fill the vacancy because of the Form 6? Does the governor appoint?
Well, that would be the one way to get rid of cities if that's their goal, right? No, I mean, our charter does talk about if the unexpired term, is more than 6 months, then you have to have an election called within a certain period of time. But there is no provision for it. And as long as you have a quorum, it'll continue to exist. But the scary thing is what happens if there's only 2 commissioners left and no one else wants to run? No one else wants to be appointed. And I think there are several communities that could be a legitimate problem.
I think that's legit.
Yeah, it's very legit. So,
Especially with small communities, because you only have a certain number of the population that votes, and you have to be an active voter to be able to run for
Right.
office. And so,
I mean, I tend to agree with Commissioner Campo that, this is probably not going to get vetoed, but I don't see what's the harm in each of you reaching out to whatever networks you have to encourage the government to veto this. But, my horse at the Kentucky Derby didn't win either, so don't take my odds on handicapping the governor's veto.
It's sad. Kenny have called our representatives, our state senator that's supposed to represent it, didn't even give us give me a courtesy call back. And that's like, just saying, the hell with everybody. We're way beneath her and we don't matter. And that's pretty much the way I'm taking it. And, but, it's a shame. I'm disappointed. I'll leave it at that.
So could we just get a little bit more
always the
specific?
messenger, don't
It's
get the
it's $1,000 of income, $1,000 of liability. So I got to list all my brother-in-laws on here because those sports bets that they've never paid off. I got 5 brother-in-laws. No, so this is, in lieu of that, you can file a tax return? Is that what you said? In lieu of all of this?
No.
Or just the income part?
It says that the commission shall accept that. Now, again, there's been no interpretation.
The commission meaning the Ethics
Commission on
Commission.
Ethics Commission, as to whether they will accept that in full or whether they're going to want some other stuff. I'm sure they'll pass some, they have very good instructions on Form 6 now, and which I included here. And again, I think next month, let's have a more robust conversation. Let's hope it doesn't pass and we don't need that conversation. But it's definitely a game changer in the ability of communities to attract, qualified individuals to serve.
Well, 6A is going to provide certain challenges for the only single commissioner down the road.
So I guess you'd like us to spend a little time reading it and
Yeah,
pepper you with
yeah,
obnoxious
either
questions.
give me a call, we'll talk about it at the next meeting, or just call me, because I'll get more familiar with it too. I'm still scratching the surface of it.
Okay.
If I may, just on this topic, one interesting item is the income tax return was not an option before. It was under the prohibitions that you couldn't submit it or they couldn't ask for it. And that was struck through on the language of this statute. So now they can ask for it. And I think that's been the concern of a lot of elected officials that voice their concerns to the League of Cities, is now if you do submit your income tax return, it's going to be part of the public record.
I mean, assets that are held jointly with rights of survivorship must be reported 100% of the value of the asset.
No trust.
Okay, are there any other commissioner comments? On any subject, not just this subject, any subjects?
Can I ask one question related to this subject, just because I have a lawyer right here? Not that you would know that. The whole, like, having to report everything 100%, even though you own it jointly, you're only myself as an elected official. Do you know what I mean? My husband's not. For other purposes, I understand, like, but for the purpose of this, they could at least give you 50%, you know?
It's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
they specifically said 100%. You got to.
I mean, the assumption would be that husbands and wives do not do anything different, and they only do with each other, because they're trying to say, oh, where are you know, anyways, I just think that's, it doesn't seem very legally,
Horrible legislation.
okay.
Horrible legislation.
So resignations and divorces will be filed December 31st.
Yeah, let's do a tracker to see, which increases more.
Just after the emergency room visits. Hopefully, Sebastian will be working that shift.
Okay, if there's no other comments, motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
We're adjourned. Thank you.